Hi guys, in this episode of Plummy's Thought Zone, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on the most recent episode of the main show in the Walking Dead universe. The episode being Season 9, Episode 9, No Other Way. And I honestly, at this point, don't really even know what to talk about in regards to this episode, because it has been a week since I've seen it. I'm recording this on Sunday. Probably will be uploading it on Monday or something along those lines. And yeah, at this point, I just don't really know what to say about this episode. I've seen other people's reactions to it, and I don't really feel it. Don't get me wrong, I feel like the episode tried to entertain me, tried to be good. I definitely see what they were going for with a lot of it, but I just do not really see how it's the best Walking Dead episode in a while. And I know that might sound a little hypocritical coming from me, because I always am like, why do people criticize something which I enjoy? Can they stop doing that? It pisses me off. So I'm not going to be whining like that in this review. I'm just gonna get this out of the way so you know where my opinion on certain thing comes from, like you know my perspective about it. So I don't see why people say that this is one of the best Walking Dead episodes ever. Because sure, it had a lot of action, but it didn't really have much of depth to it. Certainly had more depth than quite a few episodes in the first half, and it's definitely better than the worst episodes of season of the first half of season 11, which would be, it's better than episode 4, episode 7 and episode 8, as well as episode 1, I guess. But I still don't see why people say that it's like one of the best episodes ever. It just continues to for me, it just continues to have this weird feeling to it, where it just feels kinda unfinished. It feels like it's still in like the first draft. Let's start off with the beginning of the episode, where after the ending of last episode, it left it on a cliffhanger for us, and then in the beginning we just see Maggie running away. Way to ruin the cliffhanger. What was that cliffhanger about if you're just gonna have the characters survive with no explanation whatsoever? Weren't Maggie and Negan standing right one beside the other with the Hwacha, I think that's what the thing was called, pointing right at them? So how does it turn out that Maggie is on her own and Negan is with Elijah again? Where did that come from? So yeah, that's what I mean with like unfinishedness to it. And there's some other things, like when Aaron was stuck with the walkers in the basement, which is also a pretty tense scene, very reminiscent of a scene from the original Resident Evil movie, the first one, which is a funny connection that I'm making right now, because I watched the most recent Resident Evil movie, Welcome to Raccoon City, which was like a reboot or whatever, and I'm gonna be reviewing it after I'm done with this review, so you can stick around for that one. So that scene reminded me of that, but the way he escapes that scene is just kind of weird, because he's stuck holding himself on a pipe that is falling apart. Then Lydia shows up at the window to the basement, and then she somehow manages to bring a rope, throws it to Aaron, who ties it somehow with one flipping arm, and then comes out by holding onto it? How the hell exactly did he manage to crawl out of that hole? Especially because he was literally, if I remember correctly, crawling away from that window. How? What did he do? He jumped down, tied it with the thing, and then climbed up backwards? What? I just don't get it. It's just weird. It's weirdly edited. I did appreciate, though, how realistically it felt like it had rained in that scene when he was out, with the way the water was flowing to the grass. It kind of felt really nostalgic to me, because due to the place where I live, like it's in a small town, which basically, for all intents and purposes, is like a rural area. I get to see uh, that kind of environment a lot after it rains, especially during the summer, you know. But those kind of scenes just feel weird to me. It does. And the other thing that I have about issue about this episode is that they clearly wanted certain things to impact me, to be impactful, for me to be really blown away by. But I didn't really have that. It's like in the scene where Carver fights against Maggie, Elijah, and Negan. It's a cool fight scene. Seeing him destroy all three of them completely is cool, okay? The concept is cool. But the execution is a little lackluster because Negan barely ends up doing anything. He's like just being pushed away by Carver. And then you have the cool moment where Negan knocks him out with a bell and says, well, ding ding. And yeah, that is kind of badass, but I feel like what he says is not as badass as it could have been, you know? And the same thing with the scene later on where Maggie shoots the rest of the Reapers and Leah. Like, the show is trying to make a big deal out of this with her walking up and picking the gun and shooting at them, and even plays this kind of like a Walking Dead theme-like melody, which they've been playing quite a lot, honestly. But I just don't really feel the impact of it. It just feels forced, you know? It's just like the show telling me, this is an epic moment, you should feel epicness right now. And I feel like if you remove that music, it's kind of more impactful. Like, again, it's kind of weird for me to complain about something like that because I vehemently defend other shows or even The Walking Dead when it does a scene like that where it shoves the music in your face like that. And especially for a show like Doctor Who, where people criticize that the music is often too bombastic, and I love that shit. In this one case for The Walking Dead, I feel like not showing that music in my face like that would probably made me actually feel this scene is actually epic, rather than feel like the show is trying to make it seem more epic than it actually is. Because when you actually consider what exactly happens in that scene, yeah, it is kind of epic, because you have in that scene Daryl, who has promised Leah that he is going to let her go, and her and the rest of her Reapers friends to go, as long as they just walk away and never come back. But Maggie, obviously wanting to kill all the Reapers, and after talking with Negan, and Negan telling her that if he could go back in time, he would have killed all of them, because that would have protected his people, she finally decides to finish off the Reapers and grabs the revolver and shoots them. And it's really epic how in that scene, Maggie essentially listens to Negan and does what Negan would have done. And the fact that she's also carrying a revolver is, I'm sure, is very much intentional, because Rick was the revolver guy, you know? So it has a little bit of that Rick energy. It's such a Rick thing to do as well. I feel like it would have been really, really impactful if it was Rick who did that. But honestly, it really works with Maggie as well. Maybe debatably better if you didn't have the music shoved into your face there, because she has hated Negan. She has hated what Negan did. But now she has listened to him, and she did what he would have done, aka killing the Reapers. Well, at least she didn't finish off Leah, so Daryl doesn't really have the right to be super mad at her for that. She just shot her in the shoulder. And another thing about this episode, I guess, we should bring up is Aldens Death, which it's not like everybody didn't see it coming from a mile away 5 episodes ago. But like, why? Fucking why? Why would you have him survive episode 4, was it? I don't know which episode, I think it might have been episode 3. I think it was either episode 3 or episode 4. Maybe it was episode 3, because I think episode 4 was just Dario at the Reaper's place. So let's go with episode 3. In that episode, like, all of Maggie's friends died. And Alden also almost died. And even the trailer for that episode made it like Alden was gonna be the one to die. Why didn't you have him die there? At least it would have been more impactful instead of lame like this, where I don't feel anything because I was already, first of all, I was already ready for his death. I knew he was gonna die. And I knew he was dead. But he dies off screen as well? Why? Why? Explain to me the reason behind that decision, because it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, the death was already telegraphed miles away in that episode, with him having a speech to Maggie at the end there and everything. Why didn't you have him die either in that episode where he couldn't get away from walkers, and in that scene where Maggie was where Nico was pulling Maggie away from her friend whose name Agatha? I think her name was Agatha. Like, Agatha's death should have been Aldens' death. And I stand by that. That would have been a cool death. It would have made me sad about his death. And now I just am mad and annoyed because his death was so lame. And I kind of liked Alden, but like, I can't even feel sad about his death because it's done in such a lame way. It's so stupid. At least, like, at the very least, you could have done something cool with his death, where he was like, maybe, I don't know, hanging on the cross with his head upside down. Like, that at least would have been cool imagery, and I would have really liked that. But no, we just see him crawling on the ground. I don't gotta say though, it's really interesting to me how every actor, like all actors on the show, I think are for the most part really good. But it's really cool to me how they are their characters. But despite the fact like they have been on the show for so long and they've seen and killed so many walkers on set, they still managed to be pretty convincing walkers, despite the fact that all this time they've acted as their characters and not as walkers. It's really cool to me how they managed to make very convincing walkers, even from actors who usually do not act as walkers. Because you know how extras are taught by Greg Nicotero how to act like walkers, and we honestly take for granted how well the zombies in this show are made, how convincing they are. I feel like 80% of this show and what makes it work is the goddamn walkers and how convincing they are as actual dead zombies. So it's so funny to me and interesting how all these characters like Alden, who was Alden, like his actor was Alden for all this time, but also in this episode he manages to be a really convincing walker as well. I don't know, it's just kind of like a weird little interesting thing to me. Okay, so anything else about this episode? Oh yeah, I kind of almost completely forgot. The ending of this episode was rushed as fuck, and I don't get why. That also goes into my issue with how this episode feels unpolished. Because you have the defeating of the Reapers and everything and blah blah blah. Everybody gets back. Also, before we get into the final things about the episode, the final part of the episode, I don't want to bring up the scene between Gabriel and the priest, which I complained about the fact that you didn't have Gabriel and the priest fight in like episode 7, was it? And that annoyed me. But we had a really cool interaction in this episode, and Gabriel was a real badass in that scene. I really enjoyed him. And even the other scene where he saved everybody's asses when he shot Carver in the leg, where he says, "No Jensen here, call me Gabriel." Like, that is really goddamn badass. I love Gabriel. He's become such a badass character. But going back to the end of the episode, they defeat everybody, they come back with food, and without half of their people, we have all the interactions between the characters. Daryl sees Connie again. I really liked seeing Judith and RJ running towards Daryl and him picking them both up and hugging them. That was really, really cute. But then we don't really have that much time with the characters, like kind of celebrating that they've survived these troubles and they've gotten food and everything before the fucking Commonwealth shows up. And even that is kind of rushed because we see them coming up. We see Eugene show up and tell us that they're friends. Then the next scene is Lance Hornsby explaining to us who they are and that he has a proposition for all these people. If they want to stay at Alexandria, then the Commonwealth will help them with resources and everything. But they can also potentially go to the Commonwealth. And then we have a really cool transition there where it transitions to Maggie at Hilltop 6 months later and Daryl as a Commonwealth soldier, which we already saw in one of the teasers. And it's just like, yeah, cool transition, cool flash forward, but it's so rushed. In like the last 10 minutes of the episode, not even 10 minutes, probably around 5 minutes, we go through like 2 or 3 major things that could potentially take half an episode by themselves, you know? And without having seen episode 10 yet, even though it's out, I've waited to do this review before watching the next episode. I really don't understand how those scenes in the teaser and in the trailer are going to be explained, because if you watched my reactions to that, which you should, I actually thought that the Commonwealth was going to attack Daryl, Aaron, and Gabriel when they were scouting or searching for food or whatever or something. I don't know. There's so many scenes in the trailer that I right now do not have an idea where they are going to go with. Because I thought the way our characters were going to meet the Commonwealth was going to be first the Commonwealth attacking our characters and characters thinking they're bad guys, and then in next episode or something we were gonna have the Commonwealth actually arriving to Alexandria. But then we also have the flash forward with Daryl as a Commonwealth soldier wanting to enter into Hilltop and Maggie not wanting to let him or something. I don't understand that scene. I don't understand how we get to there. When do the Commonwealth soldiers end up fighting against Daryl? Like, I don't get that. So I'm curious where we're gonna go with that, you know? But yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything about this episode that I have to say. I can't really think of anything else. So now we're gonna go over my notes that I wrote during this episode, because that is something that I do now. Thank you, Blind Wave. They're a great YouTube channel. They've inspired me to do that, because it's so cool looking back on the notes and thinking, what the hell was I thinking as I was watching the episode, you know? It's kind of like reactions, but writing it down instead. Okay, so first thing I've written is so much for the cliffhanger, which I already mentioned and talked about how there wasn't much of a cliffhanger, so why the fuck did you do that? Man, those walkers in Alexandria are kind of creepy. And that is really true. Like, they really made the walkers in this episode kind of scary and kind of creepy in a way that they haven't been for quite a while. Although still, I wouldn't say I was afraid of them. Or I was, like, horrified by them, like how I was feeling about them before I became a Walking Dead fan. Because one of the reasons why I didn't become a Walking Dead fan earlier, even though I had seen the show before, like I had seen it when it was originally in season 1, I had seen season 2, or like bits of an episode, like I had seen some of those earlier seasons, but it wasn't until season 6 in 2016, after playing the Telltale games, that I actually got into the show and stopped being afraid of the walkers, because they were actually really creepy to me. Like, I remember watching the first episode of season 6 on TV, and you know when you have the shot where the walkers just keep walking around the camera when they get out of the quarry? Like, that shot was creepy when I watched it originally, and I watched it when the episode was originally airing. So, the fact that shows just how accustomed I've come to be to zombies and walkers, and how these walkers actually managed to be kind of creepy. Okay, next thing I've written is, man, there is a lot of hiding places in Meridian, which is, yeah, it's true, because both Maggie and Dario hid in hiding places. For Maggie, it makes sense that she would know that there are hiding places because she's lived there, but Dario hasn't, so... Okay, so I've written next, Gabriel is so badass, we went over that. Great interaction between priests, we went over that. That was such a cool fight. We already also went over that, the battle between Carver and the three characters. That was really cool in the way he was handling them so well. It would have been so much cooler if the Reapers were wearing their goddamn masks, which, why the fuck are they not? Because they're at home? They weren't even wearing them when they were chasing our characters in that one episode where Frost died. Like, I think it was like episode 6, the best episode of the season. They weren't even wearing their masks in that episode, which is just ridiculous that they weren't. I don't understand why. Because it was daylight? Okay, so next thing I've written is, I love the rainy atmosphere, which I also went over with that scene between Lydia and Aaron where she saved him. I really liked how it genuinely felt like it had rained. Dario on one shoulder, Negan on the other is the next thing I've written, which is when Maggie questions, asks Dario and Negan about their opinions on whether she should let Leah survive and let them go. And I love how you had Dario on one side and Negan on her other side. That was really cool. Next thing I've written is, I'm so shocked he's dead, referring to Alden and saying this sarcastically. It was so blatant. I'm not exactly sure what it was so blatant refers to, but I guess it would be again about the death of Alden and how obvious it is. And the final thing that I've written is, what's with this episode's pace? Which, yeah, I feel like that's kind of my issue with this episode. The pace is all over the place. You have some slower moments early on, but then towards the end of the episode, it kind of just speeds through so much stuff. It just feels kind of weird, you know? Also, almost forgot one more thing about the episode. At the end there, where we have the time jump and we have Dario walking towards Hilltop and removing his helmet and everything and revealing himself as a Commonwealth soldier. I think it would have been really, really cool if they actually had Norman Reedus cut his hair. Because, again, this plays into the fact that I feel like this episode wasn't as impactful as they were trying to make it be. Wouldn't it be cool after 6 months for him to like look completely different with like short hair again? Something that we haven't seen Daryl be in like 10 seasons almost at this point. I think that just would have made stuff even more impactful. And I think most of you guys agree because I've seen a lot of people share that sentiment. So I think that would have been really, really cool if they did that. But they didn't, so... yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I've pretty much covered everything I have to say about this episode. So, in terms of a rating for this one, I am going to give it a little bit of a low score compared to other episodes. But, yeah, I probably enjoyed more on a rewatch. And maybe I'll do another re-review whenever I rewatch these episodes. Because I'm definitely going to be rewatching The Walking Dead once all the seasons are done and everything. But as it stands, I'm going to give this episode a 7.9 out of 10, which is still pretty high. Like I said, it's still decently made and entertaining. It's just that it's not as epic as they were making it out to be. But I am curious, what do you guys think about this episode? Do you disagree with me? I do want to have a discussion with somebody who genuinely really enjoyed this episode and didn't experience my issue where I felt like a lot of the badass stuff in this episode was forced. I'm not saying you're wrong, I just want to see your and read your perspective about it, so comment down below. And yeah, before we end this video, I just want to give a huge shout out to my currently 3 patrons on Patreon: Omar Bridgman, Deadpool, and Sanchez. Thank you guys for your support. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me that you have decided to support me and have continued to support me for such a long time. I hope you continue to enjoy my content and continue to support me going forward. Thank you very much. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, check out the link in the description to my Twitter if you don't follow me over there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you enjoy my stories or simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to my Patreon or to my Ko-fi account where you can pledge your support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think this is pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!